How can you be more in service? That's the question we ask on today's episode of the Questing Chiropractor. I am Greg Venning. I'm your guide on this gorgeous journey towards a more fulfilling practice life. And today, with the rich, soulful, grounded, and wise Emma Stirton, we dig into the importance of your purpose, your why. And today there's a slight language warning. I get a little excited along the way. Now, Emma has run a high-volume practice. She's traveled the world, and she's one of our Quest Chiropractic coaches, or pilots as we call them. And today we talk about your statement of purpose, how to get started in defining your purpose, getting paid for your own self-development, and asking the question, when did it become about you? Now, we talk about reducing worry through getting values-based decision-making going and the consequences of not making good values-based decisions. We talk about stepping forward into uncomfortable empowerment with the people we serve, helping to discover their values and their purpose, and talking about your team and getting a purpose-led team so it creates a culture that fulfills the vision that you want. We talk about communication going beyond words, listening, planting seeds, and your practice life as a journey. Today is a rich exploration you don't want to miss out. Hang on tight. Welcome to the Questing Chiropractor Podcast. We help you grow as visionary, vital, and capable chiropractors who are always on. We do things differently as we help to elegantly awaken your innate wisdom within. We help you create robust, predictable, and trustworthy practices that serve oceans of people and yet still have free time for yourselves and your families. We use neuroscience to deliver better business results so that you can get greater, deeper, and more effective impact in more ways. We are Questing Chiropractors, and this is our story. Okay, welcome to the Questing Chiropractor. I am Greg Venning, and with me today is Emma Stirton. Now, Emma has been introduced to you. She's an amazing chiro, gorgeous coach, and a phenomenal human being. And Emma, welcome to the Questing Chiropractor.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you for having me. It's a real gift and pleasure to be here today.
Ah, beautiful. And first of many, many appearances on the Questing Chiropractor. I'm very sure of that. And today, Emma and I have been considering what we want to chat about, what we'd find useful, what our questers would find useful, what people would find useful. And the one thing that I know Emma is strong on that I thought that you'd bring to the game beautifully is talking about our purpose, our why we do what we do, why our practice exists, what it does, why we do what we do for people, why they with us. It's this many-layered conversation of purpose. And where would you start that conversation? Where would that kick off for you?
It is many layered. I think you've hit the nail on the head there, and there are so many facets when it comes to our purpose and our why. I really believe that our why starts in the morning when your alarm might go off, or you might intuitively wake up without the alarm. And it's, how do you feel as you wake up? Is there that childlike, enthusiastic energy of like, yes, I'm so excited for today? Or is it like, snooze, I don't want to do it, I don't want to get up? And this is the beginning of our why. It's how we start the day. What is behind the reason we get out of bed? And that filters through for the rest of the day. And from that space, the space of, do we have direction? Do we have a sense of knowing which way our trajectory is going to be landing for that day, for that week, for that month? Has a huge amount to do with our purpose. And I was doing a little bit of research just to perhaps bring it back down to some details on the why and on purpose. And it's about having that reason in each and every moment for the things that we do. And when we're looking at reason and we're looking at why we do the things that we do, it's not just some unconscious action that comes. Actually, it is um, as we spoke about, that multi-level, it comes from our values, it comes from our beliefs, it comes from um, our childhood and what we were brought up with. And from this point of view, if we don't know what our why is, that often is the base or the fundamental place where we work from. Um, and and often we see people without being chiropractic people, but people who don't really have a purpose or are not really sure about
Yeah.
their why, or they say that they don't know, but actually they are living some kind of why, but um, there's no direction, or it's not a conscious why. And this is where we start to drift.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that drift can be quite disheartening. So if somebody's in a state where they're in drift, where they're snoozing with the alarm in the morning, and they know they're feeling disconnected, so often what I've found, and tell me if the same for you, is curiosity about what my why might be is a great place to then drive the enthusiasm that gets us to know it. And it's an unfolding process. In the episode we did with Nimrod, we spoke about what unfolds in the unfoldment. In the episode with Mark, we spoke about curiosity. Karen spoke about value. So this builds perfectly on all of those previous episodes. What are some of the tactics, the tools? What are some of the things that someone can do if they are waking up with the snooze more often than with the driving enthusiasm?
Mhm. It's curiosity, and that curiosity is getting curious about, hey, do I know what my values are? When did I last sit down and have my a pen and paper and wrote at the top values and listed out the things that are important to me? And do I know the space in which I step into my day? Do I know my beliefs? And often it's not about changing beliefs if um if we're waking up and snoozing, but it's about becoming aware and starting to learn who we are and starting to become the observer of you. So imagine you're a bird, or you're looking down at yourself throughout the day, and watching yourself and being the observer of you, and watching yourself in conversations and watching your thoughts. It's kind of a funny thing to think, and yet more and more we're becoming more and more aware of the importance of um, being like, wow, I just thought that, and then this created my reaction, and then this is creating my reality. So being aware of where you were coming from in this state is the first step. Um, and from that space, having having that knowledge about you, it's not that you then need to change anything, but simply being aware of that will allow you to potentially make some different decisions about you. And and from there, then we can start to look at the purpose. And when we are talking about purpose, and um, Jungian and all of his work and his philosophies speaks a lot about purpose. And the people that do wake up and have that drive um, are the ones that step into a level of service. Often the reason we scream yes when we're getting out of bed in the morning is because we're moving into a sense of service. We're giving to people something that is bigger than us. It's not for us. It's for somebody else. It's for the world. It's for the people that really need it. And this is the place where purpose um has a huge effect in our lives if we can go somewhere that is beyond ourselves.
It's
Mm.
so hard to be woe is me when my purpose is beyond me. And it's so much easier to get excited when we don't get caught up in that self-talk that happens in the default mode network in the deep in the brain that just cycles around. And it's very much a disrupted cycle when we're focusing on the other. And as chiropractors, I mean, Mark made this comment in the first episode we did of we're so blessed as chiropractors where we get to go into practice and do personal development for ourselves. We just happen to do it with other people in front of us while we're adjusting them, and we get paid for it, and it's gorgeous.
Hugely. And a lot of people in the world struggle to know how they can serve people and struggle to get to the point of purpose. And yet we are here as chiropractors, and we do. We know how to serve, and the world so needs us. And we have this set of skills that is so niche, and I wish it was more abundant. And yet we have the amount of chiropractors that we do on the earth now, and we get to give, and we get to serve, and we don't have to find that that gem because it's already in us. And so how to connect that with you, and with waking up in the morning and having that feeling. It's like, what is your mindset going into practice, and is it about you, or is it about them? And that's just a question that you can ask yourself in the morning. Is it about you, or is it about them? And see how that feels. And it's not that you have to actually answer that, but when you think about, is it about me, what happens in your body? And then when you think about, is it about them, what happens in your body, or what happens in your mind?
Yeah.
And that's the shift.
I had an epiphany moment that was facilitated by a mentor of mine when I was relating my woe in practice and in life. And the person just went really, really quiet and nodded and was really taking it in. And then went quiet, and I stopped and I waited for them, and they looked down and they looked up again, and they said, "I'm just wondering, Greg," and a little bit of a language warning for anybody listening here. So if you're with the kids, just muffle your ears for a sec. Because the person looked at me, but I want to be authentic and say it as it was said to me. And they looked at me and they said, "Tell me, Greg, when the fuck did it become about you?" And we just sat in silence there together, and I'm kind of, I feel the emotion coming through now as I did then, when there was this massive epiphany of, it was both relief because now I knew a way forward and I could feel the excitement, and also a sense of disappointment in how I'd got there. And I was happy to use that discomfort to drive me forward. But even now, when I think of it, I literally start kind of getting emotive and welling up, because you realize there is so much to do. There are so many people to serve, and we have such a special gift that we get to bring to the world with this philosophy, science, art, and legacy that we call chiropractic. And whether we have one person coming to our practice today, we get to do it. Whether you have 100 people coming into your practice today, we get to do it. And it happens one person at a time. Whether you're doing quote unquote higher or lower volume, it always happens one purpose at a time. Yeah, it's gorgeous. Now, relating this into the business of chiropractic. So we've touched on this beautiful big concept of personal development around purpose, and we've only just skimmed the surface of what we could go into on that. I want to ship it into, how would we apply this to the business and running a practice of chiropractic? Where would that start for you if you're dealing with yourself or you're helping to coach one of the questers? Where would you start that process?
Yeah, and we often say that life is not about the destination; it's about the journey to get there, and that is purpose. It's not the destiny, but the destiny is the journey, and so having a purpose, having the why behind what you're doing, enables every process. And so if we don't have the why, if we can go to the not having it for a moment, it's not having a direction. It's going on the journey and not having the way in which we act and we step forward in each process. And so to have the purpose, to have the why, to understand our values, to understand our beliefs, from that place, we can make decisions. If we don't have that nailed, then our decisions they're less impactful. They often are emotive in nature. which means we're not necessarily thinking clearly, or we might be acting based on how we feel in that moment, as opposed to coming back to our purpose. And so when we have this, and we're looking at vision and the grandiose idea of really what we want to do, then we can step forward in, whether it be as minute as having a conversation with the CA about how she answers the phone, or having a conversation with a mum to be about how she's going to go through her birthing process. Like, it doesn't matter. It's, if we have the why, then there's no need to worry about what comes with it, because there's such a such a connection to the bigness and to service.
And when we have a team, and whether you're a team of one in your practice or a team of many, when we're functioning as a team and we are purpose led, and we have a clearly defined and explicit purpose, it just brings everybody into this synchronicity and into this alignment. It's like the practice adjustment that creates alignment, so people pull in the same direction. And what you touched on there was really powerful, and we've kind of done this for myself many, many times in our practice, and doing it for Questers is helping to create what we call the affirmational statement of purpose, which is really the structure of how we put this together. It's one useful structure of how we put together your purpose. And then everything in your practice, every decision point gets put through that filter. What does your website look like? Well, what does my statement of purpose say? Who am I hiring from an ex-CA? Well, what does your statement of purpose say? Should I bring on this chiropractor as an associate? What does your statement of purpose say? How do we handle this tricky situation with this practice member? What does your statement of purpose say? And we just keep coming back to it. And it evolves. If we find that the statement doesn't encompass something, well, then it gets bigger. If it doesn't encompass a certain player or a team member or something, then it gets bigger. And it's so great. Our first line in our affirmational statement of purpose, I love, because every time I find my little monkey mind telling me that I need to pay attention, I need to make something happen, or I need to push more, the first line in ours says, bubbling laughter ripples through our warm and harmonious chiropractic center. And so
I love it.
If I just quieten down for a moment, and whether I'm adjusting, or if I'm doing admin, or if I'm just around the edges before a team meeting, after a team meeting, and I just sit quietly, and you hear a giggle there and a laugh here and something there, and you just settle down because the reality of the statement of purpose is manifesting, and you've explicitly put it out, and you can feel it coming back.
Yes, it's huge. And I think you brought up a really interesting point there, is it's ever evolving. So your statement of purpose that you might sit down and go through now, and you feel like, okay, this is concrete, is something that's dynamic, and it might sit with you for a week or a month, and it does expand. And as your values in life start to shift, perhaps you're a single person, and then next minute you're married with 2 kids, all of a sudden the values shift. So your purpose statement may evolve, and as you become more aware of your beliefs and your behaviors and your patterns, all of a sudden there is the space for your purpose statement to become clearer and more succinct, or more big, and bring in different ideas with it. So the evolution of it.
That's gorgeous. And allowing different team members to come in over time and insert their DNA, enrolls them in that purpose. And then we're there for this shared joint purpose. It's not the chiropractor show. It's not the business show. It's not a corporate. It's a living, breathing entity of its own that people are enrolled in. And you get this enthusiasm from multiple people coming into the space. And even if you're alone in practice, if you articulate your own statement of purpose to yourself, you'll start to notice that you demonstrate it in different ways. You put different posters on the wall, you play different music, you move into a different space. And people feel that shift every time. I've gone through an evolution of our statement of purpose. Every time we've done it with one of our questers, they see an evolution in their practice life.
Yeah, 100%. And as we bring people in, as you said, and we have new CAs come through our practice and new practice members come through, and we learn different things, it brings us back to our purpose is about being in service, and it is not a one-man show. And so having a purpose that does evolve as our life evolves, as our practice evolves, as we bring in new team members, as practice members grow and evolve, um, we go through that process, and so should our statement of purpose.
Yeah. Yep. Ever expanding and ever refining. It's never done. It's always part of the journey.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, what about our practice members and their purpose? I mean, if for us, we've realized that it's often very poorly defined for a lot of us before we start thinking about this. What we know is that if chiropractic is aligned with a person's purpose, then it becomes much more of a lifelong practice rather than a short-term therapeutic intervention. So what are the things we can do to help to connect with another person's purpose and then relate chiropractic to that purpose to help people to get the benefit of chiropractic care for longer?
Definitely comes back to being in service, and part of being in service is to genuinely and truly listen. We do this in our new person visit, and we do this when we go through our report of findings visitors. Like, what is it behind the pain that they're coming in with? And so we're training ourselves to listen and to ask the right questions to get to the why are they actually here, that deeper emotional space with which is why people walk through the door. So when it comes to finding out their purpose, it's that same process of really connecting with them and understanding that your purpose is not going to be their purpose. And so how to learn theirs is to listen. And sometimes it's not through words. In fact, often it doesn't come through words. Often it's you might say something and you watch their body language, or you notice how they stop breathing, or they take a big breath, and then you go, they took a big breath, their nervous system relaxed. They must have resonated with that on some level. And then from that space, whatever little piece of the puzzle that you grabbed, coming in and being like, hey, did you know that chiropractic, this, and this, whatever it is that they've dropped for you, or that little gem. And it's not something that happens in a moment. It's not something that is just one visit. It's slowly but surely, little by little, moment by moment, year by year, adjustment by adjustment, we build that connection with.
Yeah, and so often we can, and we know a lot of the questers come in and ask us for what's the short-term remedy, the magic phrase I can use I do this once and it changes everything forever. What do I say when? And you've just given the answer is, well, it happens moment by moment over time. And it's about listening and receiving first, and then integrating for them after that, and allowing that time to progress and planting seeds and allowing those seeds to germinate as their space and time is ready. And that's very much the essence of chiropractic, isn't it? People come to us wanting a one-hit wonder to relieve something that's going on in their life, whether it's pain or anything else. And our job over time is to help them to realize that maybe short-term relief might be on the cards, but there's actually a longer-term game to play in around health and well-being and personal fulfillment and development, and chiropractic can help them. So it's so often funny how we see it differently in practice. I'm looking for the short win in practice. I'm looking for the short prescription. I'm looking for the magic bullet. And softening and embracing practice as that same journey is a lovely perspective. And kind of that, for me, starts rounding back almost on where you started us, is when we wake up first thing in the morning. Are we looking to get some kind of short-term fix, a dopamine hit that makes us feel better about ourselves, doom scrolling through social media or whatever gives us the hit? Or are we embracing this day as one on a journey towards a deeper sense of fulfillment?
Yeah. Yep. It's beautiful, and it's deep, and we're looking at different happy hormones. We're connecting on such a deeper level, and with our people, we literally have their potential in our hands, and each time we adjust them, there is that pop open, and you also have your potential in your hands, and it's coming to know you and know how you do your things, and connecting to your purpose. So if you don't have one, start to get curious about what it might be, and this is the space, and this is the fun stuff, and catch yourself in those moments where you're like, oh, I don't want to get out of bed, or I don't want to go to practice today. And it's like, as we said, is it about you or is it about somebody else? How can you be more in service?
I think that's a great question to end up on for now. Emma, thank you so much for joining us. We will definitely be having you back and many times as possible. But for today, Em, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Greg. It was great to be here. Amazing.